Next up, we have Mark. Mark has a degree in material science and mechanical engineering. He's currently working on the interface between humans and technology, building a brain-computer interface earbuds. He also is a DAO architect and works very closely with Cerebrum DAO and the Foresight Institute. So here he is.
Thank you very, very much. So I've kind of been dabbling in DeSci for about 2 years now. And with this talk, I kind of wanted to give a background of building DAOs, things that work, things that don't work. A lot of people are interested in building their own DAOs, so I've been really enamored with the idea of creating DAO roadmaps to really understand how to build these organizations most easily and effectively. I also work as a brain-computer interface designer at Eden Technologies, where we develop brain-sensing earbuds. Alongside that, I was working at CureDAO, which is really more of a DAO which was building a product to collect a lot of data from people, also medical health records. And also from the Foresight Institute, I got a lot of inspiration over the past couple of years, also how I kind of got into the whole space, first working with technology trees to understand that we can create a lot of knowledge and understand what direction we need to go in, but then we need to, build it. Also with like NeuroTechX, I work a lot with doing hackathons, bringing people together, also just sharing general knowledge about neuroscience. So I try to put myself where I think I could be most effective to build solutions essentially for the world. But I have a lot of inspiration also from, obviously, Vita DAO, the OG of DeSci, Athena DAO. I also like to buy coins, so Genomes DAO, which I really love, Data Lake. So if I'm talking positively about things, I might have a financial incentive just to be fully transparent. But I really love to now talk about how all these learnings are coming into Cerebrum DAO to really take the best of what we've learned from corporate research, startups, academia, and bring it into something that we can build to enhance brain health and understand how we can help solve neurodegeneration. So Cerebrum is one of the, I believe, the youngest bio DAOs currently in the room. And we were inspired by Brian a couple of years ago. It's been building up now. We just launched our Neuron token. And that is at the point, I think, where you have some success, and then you say, okay, but we really need to build, release, and produce something valuable for the world. And this is really the crux where I think a lot of DAOs come into the fray. So I would like to first point out that science is not broken. I see a lot of talks where people kick off with that high point. Science is broken, we're here to fix it. I don't think it's fundamentally broken, but I do believe that with our new technologies, we can enhance the way that we're doing science. Because the scientific process, whether it's done by humans or DeSci agents or bacterias or any other type of autonomous agent, whether it's human or programmed, it's essentially flowing in the same direction. We have questions, we create hypotheses, we test those hypotheses with experiments, we create results, and then we communicate, we translate them into the world. How we translate them is the question. Is it going to be a paper that few people read? All right, I have a few research papers for my PhD. I probably have 300 reads since 2008. Probably didn't really actually have that big of an impact on the world, despite all the Swiss taxpayer dollars that went into supporting my PhD. Do we ask the right questions at the right point in time? Do we put resources to solve those problems, those questions, at the right time? That's really where I think the DAOs are here to provide some value and solutions to the world. And to make that possible, a DAO is really like any other organization. You have energy going into doing something, and then you try to solve some of the easiest to solve problems first, and then you start to build value on top of that. So if we look at DAOs throughout the room or in the rest of the world, we see a lot of DAOs focused on trying to solve the funding problem, or the publishing problem, the collecting data problem, the understanding of how to develop and send resources, whether it's to automate wet lab work or to enhance the way that we create understanding from different publications, just so we actually know what we're actually creating in the world. And then obviously the IP fractionalization has evolved as a way to help to, let's say, bring a mechanism into play which allows DAOs to fund the research in a more fluid and scalable manner. And when I came into CureDAO a couple of years ago, I thought that there was kind of a roadmap. You know, people like, okay, there's decentralized science. I learned about DAOs. I joined one. I thought, okay, we know how to do this. Someone knows how to do this. I don't think anyone really knows how to DeSci yet. That's why we're all in the same room talking about it. Also important to recognize that fact, because then we can be honest and share knowledge about how to learn how to do it properly. That's pretty much the thing I think about like continuously, I don't know, for at least a year, whenever I have time. Whenever I want to get a chocolate cake, drink some coffee, I jot down notes about what I've learned about different DAOs, how I think they're solving problems, how I think we should be solving problems for different focus areas, for example, neurodegeneration. So this talk is really about helping to translate a bit of my knowledge to the rest of the community. So how to DeSci? I would say defining purpose, rallying community, and then actually implementing and building is probably the easiest way to describe how to DeSci. That's actually not very fundamentally different than any other startup company or research project. We're all allocating resources towards our personal goals. How to do that with DeSci, given its unique challenges, is really one of the questions. So if we look at different DAOs, a lot of us are going through the same life cycle, same roadmap. It really depends, of course, on the purpose of the DAO. But defining the purpose is the first point. Not always the first thing that people think about. The first thing you might think about is launching a token, seeing a token go from 0.0035 cents to 80 cents over the course of a couple of months and see your crypto wallet explode much larger than your bank account. Personal experience of mine. It's come back down since then, but I'm still happy that I joined that auction. Launching the token and then solving the funding problem where we want to allocate resources to the right place is really one of the easy focus areas. True anecdote, when we were talking about CureDAO, we always use VitaDAO as an example, and we said, okay, this is really cool. We want to join this movement or enhance what we can do with data collection. But it was really easy because all they had to do is fractionalize some IP and launch a token. And we were talking about how to build up architectures, build up how to collect electronic health records. There are different barriers depending on what you want to do with a DAO. So if you don't understand from the beginning what you want to do, it's going to be difficult to build what's going to really have impact in the world. And we're very quickly moving to the point where we need to produce solutions, whether that is a solution pipeline within the DAO, whether it's bringing together resources and different products to enhance what the DAO is doing for the DAO participants. And hopefully, in my lifetime, I hope to see a point where DAOs actually start to dissolve because they're no longer needed because you've solved all the amazing problems that you set out to solve. And when we're thinking about timelines, I'm thinking about timelines going out decades easily. Right? If you're starting a company, a startup company, you might have an outlook for 5 years, right? You launch, you get customers, you get acquired, you get sold. Hopefully you get a return to the investors in 5 years. I would hope that we are still around in 10 years, 20 years. If Cerebrum DAO is still going when I die, I think I would die pretty happy. And how we build out our plan for getting there is really something you should be thinking about early on. Doing the token launch, much like starting a company, is actually relatively easy, especially nowadays, right? I'm sure if someone wants to launch a new DAO within the next 2 hours, it's probably possible to do. Also with the smart contracts and the token launch, setting up your Discord, right? It's not mechanically very difficult. Getting people together, engaging the community for a week, a month, 2 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, that's where the real challenges are coming into play now. And this is where we need to be building out those products that are going to facilitate that. So I do love to play around with diagrams and roadmaps. I just naturally love to systematically take my background in design and product design and then to apply it to everything. So for me, thinking about a system of a DAO was the most natural thing when I first started getting into this field, you could say. And as a product designer, we use a lot of different non-technical tools, whether it's a design canvas, user journey mapping, talking to users, pulling in information, and I'd love to see more of that happening also in the way that we're designing DAOs, because really we're designing organizations for the DAO members. Like, these are ultimately the people who are benefiting. And then beyond that, it's the rest of society. And the cool thing about thinking about this early on is that you can then start to track out your roadmap about what to build when, where you think you're going to have the most impact, and then also understand what partners you need to work with to make this stuff happen, right? We know that we're going to create a lot of knowledge within DAOs, especially with the way that we're automating a lot of stuff. So we're going to need the AI agents, and we're going to need the large language tools and the coordination network to even make sense about what we're doing. I mean, even when I was working in automotive companies 20 years ago, I was blown away by how much we didn't really know about what was going on inside the organization. It's very natural to create more knowledge than you can consume. So these tools are filling that void that we all are going to have. So I'm really looking forward to having these open source solutions that are going to really transcend value across all the different DAOs. But that's not really helping us understand why we exist. Like, why are we here? So some of the tools I've been working with are the DAO canvas. This is basically just a natural extension of the business model canvas or the lean canvas, right? Every time there's a new cool thing coming up in the technology world, someone now builds a canvas for it because it's very, very easy to create a two-dimensional map which shows where you're going and what resources you need to allocate to bring together to make it happen. So the DAO canvas is one thing we created, which includes key points like tokenomics, growth path, deal flow. Again, really trying to tune this for DeSci projects. But if you want to get more complicated, more multi-dimensional, you can start looking at a strategy canvas. Strategy canvas, it's really cool in my opinion because it's not super popular yet, but it combines a lot of different metrics and dimensions also within a 2D space. So you start with your subject in the middle, you break out your vision, and then you start to break out, essentially, you can basically trace a path from one side to the other, and that can then be transferred over into your roadmap. So if we do that for Cerebrum DAO, we understand that we want to essentially enhance brain health. We want to solve neurodegeneration issues right at the center. If we start to break it down, we can zoom in, we can see that for our mission and vision, it's going to be about defining why we exist within the actual solution landscape that we currently have. Because a DAO is just one type of organization, right? There's other companies that are addressing brain health, there's pharmacological interventions that are coming out, and our question is, how are we making a difference? Is it just going to be about funding projects that might have a payoff in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years? Well, that's really cool. And that's one way to create a DAO, but what's going to happen in the intermediate years? What's going to happen next month, in the next quarter? What are the DAO members in Discord going to say to us when we say, okay, we're funding these projects, and that came out of our treasury. Okay, now our treasury is kind of gone. Do we have to sell more tokens? Do we have to raise another token round to have more money to do more investments? No. What we can do is create products which are impacting brain health of the DAO members today, tomorrow, over the next couple of months. And the easiest way to break down the problems that you have for a DAO is to say, if X exists, then Y is possible, and Z will happen. I actually learned this over in Gorlice Park when I was working at EF on an entrepreneur summer vacation. If you can break down your DAO concept into a few simple sentences, you can communicate it to other people, and you can understand it better for yourself. Because every DAO is going to get super complex in the world, right? More data, more DeSci agents, more experiments. It's never going to get easier to filter down to a simple question that you want to solve than when you start it. And with neuroscience and neurodegeneration, it's relatively easy, right? If we can understand when amyloid plaques are developing, if we can have early interventions, then we can start to bring in new ways to treat the disease. We can open up new ways to understand how we're aging over time. So for the implementation of DAOs, much like products, I like to go through from 0 to 1, from idea to solution. And it's really important to implement, I think, in a more traditional product sense, going from trend mapping, user stories, defining the key features you need in your DAO, the key products you're going to need to bring out to your DAO members, which is really going to bring value to their lives. If you've never been in a team before, or if you have been in a team before, I'm sure you've gone through the forming, storming, norming, performing concept. It's coming back from the 1950s, and it's really important to understand and give expectations to new DAO members that a DAO is not a magical thing which just makes everything easier. You're going to go through a lot of friction, a lot of hardship, and probably a lot of emotional roller coasters when things work, they don't work, the token price is up, the token price is down. But getting through these hurdles is what is going to give you sustainability over the next decades. In that, roles and responsibilities, easily, I think, one of the most important takeaways. Someone has to be in charge, either a core group or a core number of stewards in the beginning, because this is going to help define the whole culture for the DAO going forward. Culture management, what problem you're solving, how you're solving it. This is stuff that everyone has to understand and really agree upon and be aligned on. Because if you're not aligned, you're not going to be building and engaging the community in the same way. Like, for example, right now with Cerebrum, we're first engaging with the deal flow process. Right? A lot of people can come in, they can be reviewers, they can be deal sourcers, and they can really be part of creating that funding pipeline. But going beyond that, going beyond assessing deal risk or deal impact, which is really cool, but also like a very minute, interesting, and sometimes frustrating part of the whole process, we're looking at how we're going to create circular engagement. So one part is going to be bringing out applications which DAO users can use to assess their brain health, to assess their neurological, their brain health journey going forward. And if we now connect that with tokenomics, with the metrics of the neuron token, and the ability to collect data and use it for understanding interventions, generating knowledge, and then ultimately coming back and generating value, because users will understand then which interventions, which supplements are actually having a positive impact on their brain health and their life. That is going to give us the road forward to really have that multi-year engagement and retention of DAO users. We also have a lot of work going on within product development and architecture for larger data products, which is really going to build upon that circular notion. And I believe it will give us the ability to go to that 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, hopefully 100-year, and it'll still be there when I die. So launch, build, release, bring value to the users, to the DAO, to the world. That is the most important thing I would leave you with today. Happy to have you in Cerebrum DAO. Join our Discord. Hit me up on Twitter. Happy to talk about this anytime. Thank you.